The sentence that changed Black women's lives forever. What if the identity you've lived your entire life isn't the whole story? I'm an American Indian chief who spent years believing I was an African American. My indigenous name is Basija Pyjai, and I am helping foundational Black women investigate historical records, government classifications, and cultural narratives that have shaped their identities at a time when Americans are increasingly re-examining ancestry, history, and belonging. This is part 1 of 6 in the series Why Reproductive Engineering is a Civil Rights Issue, the Untold Story of Slavery's Architecture. What if the real engine of American slavery wasn't the cotton field? We were taught that slavery was primarily a labor system, the fields, the cotton, the unpaid work. That's true, but it leaves something far more disturbing out. What if that wasn't the system's true engine? What if the engine was the womb? I didn't begin studying slavery because I wanted to revisit pain. I wanted to understand why so many stories about our ancestors were missing. And for years, I assumed sexual violence was another horrific consequence of slavery. Then I found a single sentence in Virginia law that stopped me. Everything changed for me when I read this one sentence. The one legal doctrine changed how I understood American slavery. All children born in this country shall be held bond or free only according to the condition of the mother. Virginia Act 12, 1662, Partus, sequitur, ventrem. It meant slavery became inheritable through the mother's body. The womb became an economic institution, and children became future property. Women's reproductive lives became sources of wealth. That law meant something very powerful, something that I had not recognized. When I followed the evidence, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Plantation records discuss breeding, tracking it. Auction advertisements assigned higher prices to women who had proven fertility. After the transatlantic slave trade ended in 1808, the enslaved population expanded largely through births. Historians, including Jennifer L. Morgan, Stephanie E. Jones Rogers, Dorothy Roberts, Edward Baptist, and Harriet Washington, document how reproduction became central to the legal and economic structure of slavery. Medical experimentation on enslaved women occurred without consent. Formerly enslaved women later described forced childbearing, children taken away, and acts of resistance in their own testimonies. Viewed together, these are not isolated tragedies. They reveal a system. My interpretation is that slavery functioned not only through forced labor, but through an architecture of reproductive violence. Architecture is my framework for understanding how law, economics, and institutions work together, not simply as a series of isolated acts of cruelty. Sexual violence was not merely incidental. The law, economy, and institutions created incentives that transform the reproduction into currency, capital. That realization changed something in me. I stopped seeing enslaved women as only victims. I began seeing indigenous, autochthonous women whose bodies became battlefields inside an economic system they did not create, and whose survival preserved generations despite it. Understanding this history isn't about remaining trapped in the past. It's about recognizing the hidden architecture that shaped families, identity, and memory. The question isn't only what happened then. The question is, if the law once turned the womb into a site of profit and power, what hidden architecture still shape how we understand family, autonomy, and belonging today? If this changed the way you think about slavery, save this post so you can come back to the evidence. Share it with someone who has never heard of Partus, sequitur, ventrem before. Follow for more as we continue uncovering the hidden architecture behind the stories history rarely teaches. Stop searching and start remembering. Call your Bisoko. That's short for Big Sister, oh gorgeous one. Tell her that you appreciate her. The women who help us remember ourselves are gifts we should never take for granted. I'm Basija Pyjai. Until we meet again, keep growing. It's time to reclaim our stories, reclaim our identities, and reclaim our truth.